Is ownership better than responsibility? Has responsibility lost its meaning? Does Peter own his mistakes and shortcomings? He sees the warning that Reed Richards is, but then, it seems, he ignores that. This is MJ. I love Spider-Man, and it's time to talk about Spider-Man Life Story, Issue 3, Chapter 3, however you want to call it, covering the 80s. It's entitled Our Secret Wars. Starting with the cover, this is another great title. I really enjoy the boldness of the pink. I don't know if that's to represent, the neon of the 80s or, Aquanet hairspray or what. But this, Spider-Man in the coffin. I know of Kraven's Last Hunt, so I immediately thought of that. But aside from that, it's a very striking image. I like how much the symbiote, the black suit, bleeds into the black of the coffin. He's in a death pose that I think most people know. And in some ways, I feel like that death theme, it carries through as, a representation of things ending, because some things end for Peter in some pretty terrible ways in this issue. And of course, I'm going to go ahead and spoil Life Story Issue 1 and 2, or Chapter 1 and 2, and I'll try not to spoil Chapter 3, except I will tell you right now, you should go out and get this, and if you do, and you read it, tell me where you tear up, because I know I got misty here and there, and it was a really good comic. So the biggest, brightest, poppiest, most attention-grabbing image of Issue 3 was this double-page spread, or two-page spread, of the Secret War happening. Who's that guy? Anyway, I don't know who, half of these characters are. We've got Colossus in the middle, Hulk's next to him, and then there's a couple guys right around them. I don't know where they are. Then you've got Cap, and Cyclops looks like he's... Anyway, I'm not going to list off everybody, but I thought it was a really cool assortment of characters who were fighting in the Secret War. And I don't know the original Secret War storyline, but it makes me want to check it out even more so, because it seems neat. It seems like it could be neat. I definitely like how it was utilized in this story to ratchet up the drama of Peter's life. And it happens, while the Secret War thing happens in universe, in Life Story, the Russians use some of their superheroes who weren't taken up, and they take the opportunity to attack the United States. And it's interesting because, thinking about the fact that there was a Cold War with Russia, there's a mini Cold War some people are trying to start right now against Russia, and that there was the Secret War. I wondered, at the time the Secret Wars happened, was that in the 80s, and was it during the Cold War, and was it inspired by the Cold War? I'd be interested to know if that were the case. I don't know that, but it'd be kind of interesting. What else was I going to say? So I thought that all that stuff was really effective, and I like that. Anyway, just focusing on the story and the art and stuff. That's some amazing art, and there's just a lot to look at. I could look at that for a long time. I really appreciate the art here. And again, Mark Bagley is clearly a very talented artist, and the coloring and everything else look good on it too. So there's your art bit of the review. This little bit here, everybody who worked on the staff's name is on here. You've got, you could see it, but it's pretty funny that they did that. I like that little nod. It's a cute way to include everybody who worked on this book, or the main team who worked on the book in here. Their gravestones are along, Spider-Man's, and it's just a neat thing. And that's all I really want to say. It's cool. Some things are just cool, and that's all right. So getting a little bit more into the story, the relationship that Peter has with the symbiote in this is interesting. He recognizes that it's something that could be dangerous, and he creates a contingency to deal with it. And at the same time, though, using it, he feels stronger, he feels better, sharper, whatever, and he fears that he won't be enough without it. Mary Jane says something about it seeming like he's addicted to it, and Uh, does he warn Reed that he thinks he's addicted to it? I'm not sure. But anyway, uh, when he's talking to Reed and he basically Reed tells him, like, hey, you've got this company and you're developing all this amazing technology. There's so much you can do for the world. Your brain is what the world needs more of, not your brawn. And Peter kind of rejects it, and they get interrupted because there's an emergency thing he has to deal with. I really like the I don't know, like the undertone of the theme there of the symbiote being like a performance enhancer, and him focusing on the fact that he's getting older and slower and weaker, and then ultimately the whole thing with Craven happens, and it's anyway. It was a new idea presented to me that the symbiote has an actual psychic connection to Peter. I did not realize that, but apparently at least this version of it does. I don't know if that's something new that Donny Cates introduced as he has been changing the way the symbiotes work, and they're a lot more than just an alien being looking for a mutually beneficial partnership with another entity. I don't know all the details, but they're apparently a lot more than that, so maybe that's how they have a connection. But I thought that was pretty neat. Yeah, so I like the way the nature of the symbiote changed, and I like that Peter's actually the one to become Venom at first. And I think it's interesting that there's a possibility of a new Venom existing in this universe as well. I would say I was delighted and surprised by the fact that they went as far in reproducing Craven's last hunt that they were going to have Craven kill himself, and then the symbiote is there for him. And I'm pretty sure it stops him from killing himself. And I guess I should have looked over my images real quick because I've just kind of now double talked about that. So anyway, that was pretty interesting. But even more shocking than that revelation to me that the symbiote would interact with Craven in this way, because I thought, oh yeah, okay, this is the part where Craven kills himself and that's going to be the end of it. And then boom, that last image. And I love how the third panel over is just all blackness. So you're kind of left to imagine what exactly happened there. And it is ambiguous. Either he killed himself and the symbiote wasn't there in time to save him, or I don't know how powerful the symbiote is. Maybe he actually shot himself and yet it was able to save him and, heal him, fix him up, and use his body. Or maybe it stopped him from doing it. The possibility is what's exciting. And, to see that play out later would be very pleasing. I'm secretly hoping, or I'm not secretly, I'm hoping that they do either a 7th issue or in a couple years they pick this back up and tell, untold tales of Spider-Man from Life Story, because I know there's already an Untold Tales of Spider-Man. All right, you already heard me say this was a good book, right? I'm going to start belly aching now a little bit because this reminds me a little bit of One More Day. At this time, Peter and Mary Jane are married. They've got twins. There's a whole bunch of emotional stuff about the fact that he wasn't there for the birth of his twins because he was fighting the secret war. But at the end of this issue, the very last page, Mary Jane, this is huge, huge spoilers, so if you still want to be surprised by this, leave now. Mary Jane decides to leave Peter because he refuses to put his 90-year-old aunt in an old folks home, or with the probably millions and millions of dollars that he has, pay for an in-home caretaker to take care of her. And Peter and Mary Jane have this fight that leads him to going out in the spider suit, or in his old Spidey suit, the cloth one, and sets up the whole Craven's Last Hunt thing, homage, I should say. And in it, he says that he refuses to put Aunt May in a home because she took care of him. She took him in when his parents died, when he was orphaned, and she raised him. And Mary Jane says, but you're Spider-Man, and you're running this business, and you're ignoring me, which I get. I've learned to live with that, but you weren't here for our children, and you're willing to allow this 90-year-old woman to continue to put our children in danger. Now, I happen to know, not a lot of 90-year-olds, I know people in their 80s. I know people who are older than that. My mom actually takes care of people who are elderly and who need assistance. And there's a range. Some people are fine. Some people are dandy up until the day they die at 100. And some people aren't. And May Parker obviously isn't one of the people who is fine at 90. She seems to be close to senile. She calls, well, no, I'm going to say she keeps because the letterer did such a good job. I could tell that Mary Jane was pissed. May refers to her as Gwen, and she's like, no, May, it's Mary Jane. I've told you this dozens of times. Anyway, but the, I totally derailed myself. Oh, this reminds me of One More Day, because in order to save his oldest, sickest relative, as I think your boy Zach put it, which, by the way, I check out a lot of stuff on, or a range of stuff on, comics YouTube, and both Comic Tropes, who I think is probably a more left guy, although he shot a comic book, and he had a gun on him, so maybe he's a gun owner, which would be kind of cool. And Meyer, who was in the military and stuff, and is anti-SJW and whatnot. They seem to be on different sides of that divide, because Comic Tropes, Chris doesn't like get into any of that stuff, which I appreciate, and that's kind of where I want to be. Although I'll tiptoe into things every now and then, but this is not a political channel. It's about comics and the merit of each individual book. Just like you should judge each individual person on their own merit, right? Or no? Anyway. Sorry for that tangent. Anyway, they both really dislike, or I think I've both heard them discuss how little they like One More Day, and I agree. I feel it's dumb, and I almost wonder if Zdarsky's making a little bit of a commentary on that by making a Peter who chooses to live his worst life by living in such a way, fighting with his beautiful, young, attractive wife, who he was friends with for a long time, who kept his secret, who mourned with him and consoled him after everything that happened with Gwen and Harry and Ben. Let's say Ben number 2. She's been with him through all that stuff. They've been together for, I think, at least a decade, and yet they're having children together and stuff, and yet he's choosing to let her leave so that his sickest, oldest, senile relative can not be inconvenienced to move out of the house or have a caretaker in there with her. I don't understand that. And I know different cultures regard taking care of the elderly in different ways, and I can respect somebody who wants their mother, father, aunt, uncle, whatever, grandparent to live with them till the day they die and they take care of them. But if you're Spider-Man and running a business and these other things, I'm not sure how you can do that and why you would choose to do that. And while I appreciate the tension and the drama, I think Peter's making very stupid decisions here, and they're not fully fleshed out. And I am sure glad this is all happening in a short story over 6 months, 6 issues, and not over years of me reading Peter push away his wife. And it's interesting, I'm going to once again go back to the fact that he calls in the comic Reed Richards a ghost of a warning for him, because Reed pushed away his wife and his friends and his family until all he had left was an abstraction of humanity that he was fighting for. And in the same issue that Peter said that, or thought that, like 3 weeks later, he returns home and does that exact same thing that he was faulting this guy for. Now, that's just, I don't know if that's supposed to be dramatic irony or extra dramatic or what, or if it is a bit of a slam at One Last Day, or One More Day, whatever. I don't know, but wow. I don't even know what to say anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and stop. Thanks for sticking with me. Check out mjmunoz.com for more of my work. I talk about Tokusatsu and write original fiction you can find there. I am also participating in Tokutember, making Tokusatsu-inspired art for the month of September. I'm an aspiring author who will gladly accept your financial support through coffee. Swinging Through Comics can be found on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and mtmunoz.com/stc. Relevant links are in the show notes. If you had a good time, like and share this. Subscribe and ring that bell to catch me next time I'm swinging through comics.